I was born into privilege, and I died with power still in my hands. Between those 2 points stretched a life that most would call fortunate. I commanded armies. I governed an empire that touched 3 continents. Men bowed when I entered a room, and my words became law before the ink had dried upon the page. Yet, if you were to ask me now what occupied most of my thoughts during those years, I would not speak of battles or treaties or the vast machinery of state. I would speak of the smaller war, the one that took place each morning when I woke and each evening before sleep found me. I would speak of the endless work of watching myself. This may seem strange. An emperor concerned with self-discipline? Should I not have been consumed with the discipline of others, with the ordering of provinces and the management of men? Perhaps. But I learned early, and the lesson only deepened with time, that the man who cannot govern himself has no business governing anything else. And more than this, I learned that power does not make this task easier. It makes it desperately harder. When I was young, I believed that achievement would bring relief. I thought that once I had proven myself, once I had reached some station of respect and authority, I could finally rest. I could finally stop pushing against my own nature. This was a child's understanding. What I discovered instead was that every increase in power brought with it a corresponding increase in danger, not from enemies without, but from the enemy within. The enemy that whispers, "You have earned ease." The enemy that says, "You need not restrain yourself any longer." The enemy that promises, "Comfort is your right." I do not write this to instruct anyone. I am long past the age where I believe one man can truly teach another how to live. Each life has its own shape, its own challenges, its own particular battles. But I can tell you what I saw in my own life, what I struggled with across decades, what I am still struggling with even now, in these later years, when the body grows heavy and the mind occasionally wanders down paths it did not intend to take. I trained myself for an entire lifetime, not because I was particularly noble and not because I enjoyed the struggle. I trained myself because I understood slowly and painfully that without this training, I would become something I could not respect. I would become a creature of appetite and impulse, dressed in fine robes and speaking fine words, but hollow at the center, empty where it mattered most. Let me begin with youth, because that is where all of this begins, whether we recognize it at the time or not. Youth is not what we pretend it is. We speak of youth as strength, as vitality, as the flowering of human potential. And there is truth in this, yes. The young body is strong, the young mind is quick. But youth is also chaos. It is a fire that has not yet learned its own boundaries. It burns hot and wild, and it will consume everything around it if it is not carefully tended. I was fortunate in some ways to have teachers who understood this. They did not try to extinguish the fire. They tried to teach me how to build a hearth around it, how to contain it without destroying it. They taught me that desire is not evil, but that unexamined desire becomes tyranny. They taught me that anger is not weakness, but that anger without reflection becomes violence. They taught me that ambition can drive a man to great things, but that ambition without purpose becomes mere hunger, insatiable and ultimately meaningless. These were not easy lessons. I resisted them, as most young men do. I wanted what I wanted, and I wanted it immediately. I saw restraint as cowardice. I saw patience as weakness. I believed that life should bend to my will, that if I were strong enough and clever enough, I could make the world arrange itself according to my preferences. This is the great illusion of youth. We believe we are powerful when in truth we are merely energetic. We believe we are wise when we have simply learned to speak confidently. We believe we are ready to take on the world when we have not yet learned to take on ourselves. My teachers, patient men who had seen many young aristocrats pass through their care, did not argue with me directly. They did not forbid or condemn. Instead, they gave me exercises, small disciplines. They asked me to rise before dawn, not because there was urgent work to be done, but because rising before dawn teaches you that you can do difficult things even when you do not want to. They asked me to practice silence during meals, not because talking is wrong, but because silence teaches you to notice your own thoughts rather than simply broadcasting them. They asked me to sleep on a hard surface from time to time, not because comfort is evil, but because too much comfort makes you forget what your body is capable of enduring. At first, I did these things out of obedience. Then I did them out of pride, wanting to prove I was stronger than other young men. But slowly, over months and years, I began to understand what was actually happening. These small disciplines were not about the specific actions themselves. They were about learning that I could direct my own life, that I was not simply a bundle of impulses and reactions, that there was something in me that could observe, consider, and choose. This was the first great discovery. The discovery that I was not one thing, but two. There was the self that wanted, that reacted, that sought pleasure and avoided pain. And there was another self, quieter, that could watch the first self and, occasionally, suggest a different course. I think many people never make this discovery. Or they make it and then forget it, because it is easier to forget. To be one unified thing driven purely by desire or fear or habit is simpler than being divided. It requires less effort. You simply follow the current of your nature wherever it takes you. But this simplicity comes at a cost. The cost is that you are never truly free. You are a leaf in a stream, carried along by forces you do not understand and cannot control. The young man needs restraint more than anything else, though he will fight against it with all his strength. He needs to learn that every appetite left unchecked will eventually destroy him. Not because appetites are evil, but because they know no limit. The appetite for food does not stop when the body is nourished. It continues, demanding more until the body grows sick and heavy. The appetite for pleasure does not stop when pleasure has been achieved. It demands novelty, intensity, excess, until pleasure itself becomes a kind of pain. The appetite for power does not stop when sufficient power has been acquired. It reaches always for more until it has alienated every friend and created enemies where none existed before. I learned this not through wisdom, but through error. I indulged appetites and I saw where they led. I saw myself becoming smaller, not larger. I saw myself becoming more dependent, not more free. And slowly, reluctantly, I began to accept that my teachers had been right. That discipline was not a restriction placed upon me by others, but a tool I could use to build the kind of life I actually wanted, as opposed to the kind of life my immediate impulses would create. But I do not want to make this sound like a simple revelation, a moment of clarity after which everything became easy. It was not like that. Every day was a struggle. Every day the appetites returned, demanding their due. Every day I had to choose again, and many days I chose poorly. I indulged when I should have refrained. I spoke when I should have been silent. I acted on impulse when I should have waited, but the practice continued, the work continued, and over time, slowly, the choosing became slightly easier. Not easy, never easy, but possible. Then came power, real power, not the borrowed authority of a young aristocrat, but the absolute power of an emperor, and with it came a danger I had not anticipated. When you have power, no one corrects you. Oh, they may flatter you while opposing your wishes, or they may express concern while ultimately deferring to your judgment, but no one truly corrects you. No one says, you are wrong and you must change. No one says, your behavior is unacceptable and there will be consequences. You float free of the normal constraints that shape other men's behavior. You exist in a space where your smallest whim can become reality, where your passing frustration can ruin lives, where your unchecked appetite can reshape the world around you. This is extraordinarily dangerous, more dangerous than any external enemy, because the battlefield is inside you and no one else can see it. No one can warn you that you are losing. No one can tell you that you are becoming something terrible. They see only the surface, the performance of power. They do not see the slow corruption taking place beneath. I understood this, dimly at first, then with growing clarity. I understood that I had to become my own corrector, my own opponent, my own judge. No one else would do this work. No one else could. And if I did not do it, I would become a monster, as so many powerful men before me had become monsters, not through malice necessarily, but through the simple absence of restraint. So I developed practices, daily practices, small rituals of self-examination that became as much a part of my routine as bathing or eating. Each morning, before I met with advisors or heard petitions or made decisions that would affect thousands of lives, I would sit quietly and ask myself questions. What did I do yesterday that I should not have done? What did I fail to do that I should have done? Where did anger control me rather than me controlling anger? Where did I seek pleasure or comfort when I should have accepted difficulty? Where did I speak from pride rather than truth? These were not pleasant sessions. Often I did not like what I saw. Often I had to acknowledge that I had behaved poorly, that I had let my position excuse behavior that would have been inexcusable in anyone else. But the practice was not about feeling good, it was about staying awake, about remaining aware of what I was becoming, about catching the corruption before it became permanent. And in the evening, before sleep, I would do the same. I would review the day that had passed, not to congratulate myself on what went well, though I tried to acknowledge that too, to avoid the trap of constant self-criticism, but primarily to examine where I had fallen short, where I had been the emperor rather than the man, where I had used my power carelessly, or spoke without thought, or allowed my comfort to matter more than someone else's genuine need. This may sound exhausting. It was exhausting. But I learned that it was less exhausting than the alternative. The alternative was to drift, to become gradually more callous and more self-absorbed, to wake one day and discover I had become a tyrant without ever intending to. The alternative was to lose myself entirely. I also learned, during these years of power, something about comfort that I had not fully understood before. I learned that comfort is seductive in a way that pleasure is not. Pleasure announces itself. Pleasure is obvious in its demands. You know when you are seeking pleasure, and you know when you have indulged too much. But comfort is subtle. Comfort presents itself as wisdom. It says, "You have worked hard, you deserve rest." It says, "You have proven yourself, you need not struggle anymore." It says, "Life should not be this difficult. You have the power to make it easier. Why not use that power?" And these statements are not entirely false. This is what makes comfort so dangerous. You do deserve rest sometimes. You have proven yourself in some ways. Life does not need to be maximally difficult at every moment, but comfort, like any appetite, does not know when to stop. It always wants a little more ease, a little more convenience, a little more protection from difficulty and discomfort and uncertainty. I watched this happen to men around me. Good men, capable men, who slowly softened and weakened as their lives became easier. They did not become evil, they simply became less vital, less engaged, less capable of rising to challenges. They became men who managed rather than men who acted. They became men who protected what they had rather than men who built anything new. And they did this without ever noticing the change, because the change came so gradually, so pleasantly, dressed in the very reasonable language of earned rest and appropriate reward. I resolved that this would not happen to me. I resolved to maintain difficulty in my life, deliberately, not because I enjoyed suffering, but because I understood that difficulty keeps the soul sharp. It keeps you capable. It reminds you what you can endure. It prevents you from becoming so fragile that the smallest disruption shatters you completely. So I continued to sleep on hard surfaces occasionally, even as emperor. I continued to rise early, even when there was no immediate need. I continued to fast from time to time, even though I could have had any food I desired. I continued to walk long distances, even though I could have been carried. I continued to expose myself to cold and heat, even though I could have remained always in perfect climate. Not because these things made me better than other men, not because I believed suffering had some mystical value, but because I knew from long experience that when life becomes too easy, we become too weak. And weakness in an emperor is not a personal matter. It affects everyone who depends on that emperor's judgment and strength. People sometimes misunderstood this. They thought I was performing some kind of philosophical theater, demonstrating my virtue for public consumption. They did not understand that I was fighting for my life, not my physical life, but my life as a conscious, choosing being. I was fighting against the slow death that comes from too much ease, the death where you are still breathing and walking and speaking, but you are no longer truly present. You are no longer truly yourself. You have become a collection of habits and comforts and small pleasures with nothing substantial at the center. I do not judge others for not fighting this fight. Every person must decide how to live. Every person has different battles to fight. But for myself, I knew that if I stopped training myself, if I stopped deliberately choosing difficulty over ease, I would lose something essential. I would lose the quality of attention that makes life meaningful. I would lose the capacity to meet real challenges when they arose. I would lose myself in the comfortable fog of imperial privilege. And the challenges did arise. They never stopped arising. Wars that needed fighting, plagues that needed managing, betrayals that needed confronting, losses that needed bearing. If I had let myself grow soft, if I had let comfort become my primary concern, I would have been destroyed by these challenges. Not physically destroyed, perhaps, but destroyed in every way that matters. I would have collapsed inward, unable to bear what needed bearing, unable to do what needed doing. The discipline I had built across decades was not separate from my ability to function as emperor. It was the foundation of that ability. Every morning I rose before dawn. I was practicing for the days when rising at all would be almost impossibly difficult. Every time I chose discomfort over ease, I was practicing for the times when discomfort would not be a choice but a necessity. Every time I examined my own behavior and found it wanting, I was practicing the humility that prevents power from becoming absolute corruption. But I do not want to give the impression that this was all grim endurance, all stoic suffering. There was something else as well. There was a kind of freedom in it. When you are not controlled by your appetites, when you are not constantly seeking comfort, when you are not afraid of difficulty, you have a freedom that others do not have. You can go where life takes you without constantly negotiating with yourself. You can accept what comes without the endless internal argument about whether you should have to bear it. You can live more fully because you are not spending all your energy trying to make life easier. This freedom is hard to explain to someone who has not experienced it. It sounds like paradox. How can discipline create freedom? How can deliberately choosing difficulty make life better? But it does. Not because difficulty is good in itself, but because the constant avoidance of difficulty is a kind of prison. It makes you timid. It makes you fragile. It makes your world very small, because you must constantly arrange circumstances to avoid discomfort, and this arranging takes all your time and energy. When you are willing to be uncomfortable, when you have practiced discomfort so extensively that it no longer frightens you, you can move through the world differently. You can take risks. You can tell the truth, even when it is awkward. You can do what needs doing, even when it is hard. You can love people without constant fear of loss, because you know you can bear the pain of loss if it comes. You can engage fully with life because you are not constantly trying to protect yourself from life. This is what I was training for all those years. Not for some abstract ideal of virtue, not to impress philosophers or earn the approval of history. I was training to be free, to be capable, to be present for my own life rather than spending that life in endless negotiation with my own fears and desires. But now I must speak of age, because age changes everything, and the discipline that served me in youth and middle life requires transformation as the body weakens and the years accumulate. I am old now, not as old as some men become, but old enough to feel the weight of years, old enough to know that my body will not do everything I ask of it, old enough to have lost people I loved, positions I held, capacities I once took for granted. And I have had to learn a different kind of discipline, the discipline of letting go. This is harder in some ways than anything that came before. In youth, discipline meant holding tight. It meant restraint, control, the careful management of unruly energies. But in age, that same tight grip becomes a problem. The body cannot be forced as it once was. The mind cannot be driven as relentlessly. The circumstances of life cannot be controlled as they once were. And if you continue trying to hold everything tightly, you simply exhaust yourself fighting battles that cannot be won. So I have had to learn gentleness, not the abandonment of discipline, but its transformation. I have had to learn to work with what is, rather than constantly trying to force what should be. I have had to learn to accept limitation, not as failure, but as the natural shape of this stage of life. This does not mean surrender. It does not mean giving up on self-observation or allowing myself to drift into complete passivity. The morning examinations continue. The evening reviews continue. But the content has changed. Now I ask myself different questions. Am I accepting what cannot be changed? Am I releasing what no longer serves? Am I being kind to this aging body, or am I punishing it for no longer being what it was? Am I holding on to old ideas of myself that are no longer true or helpful? This is difficult in a different way than youthful discipline was difficult. In youth, you are fighting against excess. In age, you are fighting against insufficiency. You are learning to be enough, even when you are less than you were. You are learning to find meaning in limitation, to discover that a smaller life can still be a full life if it is lived with attention and care. I speak of this because I know many who read these words will be in this same territory. You will be facing the slow losses that age brings, the strength that is no longer there, the quickness that has departed, the roles that have ended, the people who are gone. And you may be wondering how discipline applies to this stage, or whether it applies at all. Whether it is time simply to rest, to let go of all effort, to drift gently toward the end. I cannot tell you what is right for you, but I can tell you what I have found. I have found that discipline does not end with age. It transforms. The fierce restraint of youth becomes the gentle persistence of age. The tight control becomes careful stewardship. The ambitious striving becomes simple presence. I still rise early, though not as early as I once did. I still examine my behavior, though I am more forgiving of failures than I once was. I still choose some difficulty, though I am more careful about which difficulties I choose. I still practice attention, though what I pay attention to has changed. I am less concerned with great accomplishments now. I am more concerned with how I treat the people around me, with whether I am genuinely present for my own life, even as that life grows quieter and smaller, with whether I can face what comes, including what must ultimately come, with some degree of steadiness and grace. The training continues because the alternative is dissolution. Not physical death, which comes regardless, but the inner dissolution where you are still alive, but no longer really living, where you are simply waiting, passively, for the end, where you have given up on being a conscious, choosing being, and have become merely a collection of aches and memories and fears. I refuse this. I refuse it not out of pride, but out of respect for the gift of life, which continues even when diminished. I refuse it because I have spent a lifetime learning to be present, to be awake, to be conscious of my own existence, and I do not want to abandon that work simply because the work has become harder. But the transformation required is real. You cannot be old the way you were young. You cannot discipline age the way you disciplined youth. You must learn new forms, gentler forms, forms that work with your current reality rather than against it. You must learn, and this is perhaps the hardest lesson of all, that needing rest is not weakness, that accepting help is not failure, that letting go of old identities and old capacities is not surrender, but wisdom. I am still learning this. I do not claim to have mastered it. Some days I push too hard, trying to be what I was, and I pay the price in exhaustion and pain. Some days I give up too easily, accepting limitation when perhaps I could have done more. But the practice continues. The attention continues. The work of being consciously present for my own life, in whatever form that life now takes, continues. And I have found something unexpected in this stage. I have found that there is a particular freedom in age, a freedom that exists alongside the obvious limitations. When you have already lost so much, you have less to protect. When you have already failed in so many ways, you have less to prove. When you know that time is limited, you become more careful about how you spend it, and this carefulness is itself a kind of richness. I am less concerned now with what others think, less concerned with reputation or legacy, less concerned with being right or being impressive. I am more concerned with simple things, with being honest, with being present, with treating people with the dignity they deserve, with noticing the world around me, which continues to be strange and beautiful even as I grow weaker. This too is discipline, the discipline of attention, the discipline of presence, the discipline of caring about what matters and letting go of what does not. It is quieter than the discipline of youth, less dramatic, less visible. But it is no less real, it is no less necessary. And in some ways, it is harder, because it requires a kind of acceptance that the young self would have seen as weakness. Let me return now to the question that has run through this entire reflection. Why did I train myself for an entire lifetime? What was the point of all this effort, all this attention, all this deliberate discomfort? I could give you noble answers. I could say it was for the good of the empire, or for the benefit of those I governed, or for the advancement of philosophy. And there would be truth in these answers. My ability to function as emperor did depend on my ability to govern myself. My capacity to serve others did depend on not being consumed by my own appetites and fears. My engagement with philosophy did require the practical discipline to live according to what I claimed to believe. But the deeper answer, the more honest answer, is simpler. I trained myself because I wanted to remain myself. I wanted to be present for my own life. I wanted to be a conscious being, capable of choice, capable of response, capable of meeting what came with some degree of steadiness. I wanted to be free, as much as any human being can be free, from the tyranny of my own unexamined impulses and fears and desires. This is not a grand ambition. It is perhaps the most basic ambition possible. Simply to be conscious, simply to be present, simply to be capable of directing your own life rather than being entirely directed by forces you do not understand or control. But it is harder than it sounds, much harder, because everything in life conspires to make you less conscious. Comfort conspires, habit conspires, fear conspires, desire conspires. The sheer difficulty of paying attention day after day, year after year, conspires. The training was my response to this conspiracy. It was how I fought to remain awake, how I fought to remain capable, how I fought to remain myself in any meaningful sense of that word, and it was never finished. It is still not finished. Even now, even at this age, even with so little time remaining, the work continues. The attention continues. The choice continues. Because consciousness is not something you achieve once and then possess forever. It is something you must choose again and again, day after day, moment after moment. And the moment you stop choosing it, the moment you decide you have earned the right to drift, it begins to slip away. I do not say this to discourage you. I say it because it is true, and because I believe truth, even difficult truth, is more useful than comfortable illusion. The work does not end. The training does not end. But this is not tragic. This is simply the nature of being human. We are not static beings who once formed remain forever in that form. We are processes, ongoing, always either growing or diminishing, always either more conscious or less conscious, always either more free or more enslaved to our own unexamined patterns. The question is not whether you will train yourself. You will train yourself one way or another. The question is whether you will train yourself consciously, deliberately, toward the kind of person you want to be, or whether you will train yourself unconsciously, haphazardly, toward whatever your circumstances and impulses happen to create. I chose conscious training. I chose it not because I was better than others, but because I understood, early enough to make a difference, that the alternative was intolerable to me. I could not bear the idea of living an unconscious life. I could not bear the idea of becoming a creature of pure habit and reaction. I could not bear the idea of having power without the inner resources to use that power wisely. I could not bear the idea of reaching the end and realizing I had never truly been present for any of it. So I trained. And the training gave me, if not everything I hoped for, at least the thing I needed most. It gave me the possibility of being present, of being conscious, of being, in some real sense, free. It gave me the possibility of meeting life as it actually was, rather than as I wished it to be. It gave me the possibility of bearing difficulty without being destroyed by it. It gave me the possibility of experiencing joy without being enslaved by the pursuit of it. It gave me the possibility of loving without being consumed by the fear of loss. It gave me the possibility of dying when my time comes with some degree of readiness and peace. These are not small things. These are perhaps the only things that truly matter. And they were not given to me by fate or fortune or the gods. They were built, slowly and imperfectly, across decades of attention and effort and conscious choice. They were built through the training that never ends. I offer you this reflection not as instruction, because I do not presume to instruct anyone, and not as judgment, because I have no right to judge how another person lives. I offer it simply as testimony, as the account of one life lived as consciously as I could manage, with all the failures and limitations that come with being human. You will make your own choices. You will find your own path. But perhaps, in these words, you will find something useful. Perhaps you will recognize something you have experienced, but not quite articulated. Perhaps you will feel less alone in your own struggles with discipline and difficulty and the endless work of remaining conscious. Or perhaps not. Perhaps these words will mean nothing to you, and you will set them aside and go about your life in whatever way seems right to you. That is as it should be. Every life is different. Every person must find their own way. But if you take nothing else from this reflection, take this. You are not your circumstances. You are not your habits. You are not your impulses and fears and desires. You are the one who can observe all these things. You are the one who can choose, at least sometimes, to act differently than these forces would have you act. You are the one who can train yourself, gently and persistently, to be more conscious, more present, more free. This capacity does not make you special. It makes you human. It is the basic inheritance of being a conscious being. But it is also the most precious thing you possess, and it must be protected and cultivated and exercised, or it atrophies and is lost. I spent my life protecting this capacity in myself, not perfectly, not without failure, but persistently, across decades, through all the changes and challenges that life brought. And now, in these later years, I can look back and say with certainty that this effort, more than anything else I accomplished, was worth it. It gave me my life. It gave me the possibility of living consciously rather than simply existing. It gave me the possibility of being present for the strange and difficult and occasionally beautiful experience of being alive. This is why I trained myself for an entire lifetime. This is why the training continues even now. This is why I would begin again, if I could, and make the same choice. Not because the training was easy or pleasant, or because it brought me comfort, but because it brought me something far more valuable than comfort. It brought me the possibility of being truly present for my own existence. It brought me the possibility of being, in the deepest sense, alive. And in the end, what else is there? What else could possibly matter more than this? We are given a brief time to be conscious, to be present, to be capable of wonder and love and understanding. A brief time to experience this strange gift of existence. And then it ends. The training cannot prevent this. Nothing can prevent this. But the training can ensure that we are truly present for whatever time we have. That we do not sleepwalk through our own lives. That we do not reach the end only to realize we were never truly there at all. This is enough. This is more than enough. This is everything.